Hey y'all, it's Crystal. Thanks for coming by today. Let's wrap up March because, yeah, it's about over. It's not quite over. Got a couple more days left in the month, but I don't really foresee myself finishing anything else. So, yeah, let's talk about March. Let's talk about reading first. So, The Damnation Game by Clive Barker. Really enjoyed this, and very happy to have finally read it. This was, of course, our book club pick for the Death by TBR book club, but I co-host with Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books. And yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it overall. So we start out, essentially the gist of the story. This guy is in prison, and he's kind of recruited out of prison to be this kind of security guard kind of type person for this really kind of rich dude and his like sprawling mansion, essentially, and And so he gets to get released from prison, but he still has a lot of rules and things. He's not like a free man necessarily. Like he has to kind of be there for this older man, right? And so, of course, he takes the gig because it gets him out of prison, right? Because nobody actually wants to be in prison, right? So the gist of the story is him at this old house and figure out what the heck's going on because something ain't right? It's a Clive Barker book. So what we learn about this old man is his sort of links to this sort of game that he's played with. I don't know what we want to call it, but someone from the other side. I don't know. You'll have to read and find out. But and this person is possibly out for to kind of call in his debt, as we say, and sort of where that story goes from there. I'll leave it at that. There are Barker has such really beautiful writing, and it definitely pulled me along in this story. This is a slow burn. You really get to know the characters a lot. So it may not be everyone's cup of tea as far as that goes, but I really enjoyed it. I just really got sucked into the story, and then kind of by the ending and everything, I was like, okay, yeah, I like this. Yeah. So again, just very happy. I didn't really sum up that book very well, but I did really enjoy it, and I like Clive Barker. I really gotta get my butt in motion to read more of his things. I've just got a shelf full of his books that I haven't read. So anyway, yeah, I then read Maeve Fly by CJ Leade. Listen to this one on audio. I loved this one. This one was so much fun. This was the book club pick for the Spinebreakers book club, hosted by Brad Proctor. I had a good old time with this one. I really liked Maeve as a character. She was a hoot. And yeah, just a lot of fun. So Maeve is, they live in California, they live in Hollywood, and, Los Angeles, whatever. And she lives with her grandmother, who is like an old starlet, an old Hollywood starlet. So there's this connection, kind of old Hollywood, which I really liked. But her grandmother's actually not doing really well health-wise. She's quite old, quite elderly, and needs like home care nurses and that kind of thing. She's not doing well. But Maeve, she's there living with her grandmother. She also works at a theme park, which we know is Disneyland, and we know that she is playing the character of Elsa. Like, we just get it, she can't say Elsa in the book, but we know it's Elsa, right? And so there's that kind of her life as this job playing Elsa, which she really thoroughly loves and enjoys, and it's kind of her best friend, who also plays Anna. So there's a friendship there, and there's a lot, really just kind of about like LA life too, and which was really fun. But Maeve, maybe she's a killer. Yeah, maybe she's a serial killer and likes to murder people, which is kind of interesting. So Maeve, it's just a fun character. She loves Halloween. She drives her grandmother's like old pink car and stuff. I don't know. It's very LA to me, and I really enjoyed it. It's just a fun book that does get really gross at times. A lot of gross stuff going on. And I just really enjoyed it. When there's this kind of thing that happens and you figure out something about her grandmother, and I just was like, whoa! I love that part. I love the ending. I had a good old time with Maeve Fly. Maeve was a really fun character. Had a fun time with that book. I highly recommend it. If you just, it's just fun. It's just a good bloody time. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I read a Nancy Drew Files book. I read number 4, case number 4, Smile, and say murder. So this I read for March Mystery Madness. I wanted to at least read one mystery book, for the event. And I did. I read this one. And so Nancy Drew gets called in to, is it Chicago? I forget the city now. I think it's Chicago. To kind of investigate the goings on at this magazine. Basically the head lady of the magazine thinks that her sort of co-owner, person is trying to kill her for reasons. Like they've been approached to like sell the magazine, but she doesn't want to sell, but he doesn't want to sell either, but they think each other wants to sell. It's kind of a convoluted plot actually, but the story kind of goes from there about what's actually going on at the magazine, all these people and who's who and what's what. It's a Nancy Drew book, lots of drama with her boyfriend, which, oh my god, sometimes Nancy gets on my nerves with how ridiculous she is with her boyfriend. Anyway, it was fun though. It's just a fun drama. These are kind of grown up Nancy Drew stories, and they're just fun. They're a lot of fun. I had a good time with this one. And yeah, making my way through the Nancy Drew Files book. So yeah, it was fun. I had a good time with it. And then I had a hold come in. I had this book on hold from Libby. I think months. I think straight up months. It is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. I wrote down here under my journal, perfection! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. 5 stars. This book is brilliant. I loved it. I loved it so much. This is a sort of, I guess you feel kind of like a post-apocalyptic kind of society. Something has happened, and we're opened the book up, and there's a group of 40 women in this cage. There's no windows or anything. They're just in a cage, and they've been living there for many years, probably like 20 years or something like that. And within the cage, they're in a room, and on the outskirts of the cage, there are 3 male guards that just walk around. They kind of sweep the cage. They're just constantly kind of walking, making sure they're not doing things they're not supposed to be doing, that kind of thing. And they're just living their life in this cage. They're given food to prepare, things like that. Yeah, this is their life, right? And so our main, point of view is from a younger woman who was actually a young child when she was first, put into the cage. So her life is really this cage. She doesn't really remember kind of life prior to, like a lot of the other women do. Like they remember being married and having children of their own and what happened, and the sort of chaos of whatever the event that happened, above ground, that they remember these things, right? But she really doesn't. She was so young, and that she just doesn't remember that stuff. She just sees things a bit differently, and she doesn't know a lot of things. So she's naive in a lot of ways, but she's also very curious. Like she's asking questions a lot, and she's noticing things. She kind of gets attached to one of the guards who's a younger man, and she starts kind of toying with him and teasing him a little bit, which is kind of interesting, which is fun. Anyway, so I don't really want to say much else because I really don't want to. I really just feel like you need to experience this book, because something happens, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say. But I thought this was absolute perfection. Of course, very feminist in nature. I loved this main character. I loved her so much. I loved this group of women. The resilience, really of women, when they're put in a situation, I think is shown here so wonderfully. When you get a group of women together, they'll survive, the best way that they can. And there won't be, things like violence and stuff like that, it was, like I say, it's perfection. It will stick with me. I want to reread it. I will reread it. I want to own a copy of it so I can reread it physically and mark some things as I go. Like I want this book on my shelf. It is stunning, and I loved it so much, and I highly recommend you all read it. It is phenomenal. I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay. All right. I got into some let me talk about this one first, because I also ended up reading Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood, another audiobook hold that I had came in. I think I'd had this one on hold for a while too, and it came in. I was like, well, it wasn't really on my TBR, but it is now. So Cat's Eye, a little bit of a chunkier book, but I love this too. I absolutely love this too. 5 glowing stars for Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood. Look at I love that old picture of her. So this one came out. What year was this one out? Dun, 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 dun. 1988. 1988. And this is just another wonderful story about a woman, really. And this was a different vibe, but okay. Our main character, this book's kind of so our main character is Elaine, and we kind of go backwards and forwards in time with her life, in her more kind of present day storyline. She's kind of middle-aged, she's like in her late 40s, early 50s maybe, and she has come back home, which I always love a story when a character has to come back home, like sort of like they don't want to, but they do. So back home for her, I think it's like the Toronto area, and because she's going to have this big retrospective of her artwork. She is a painter. And so, of course, you know, being the hometown kind of lady, they are putting on this show in Toronto. Though she's been living in, I think, Vancouver area for you know, several years now. Anyway, so like I said, it goes backwards in time to her childhood in the Toronto area. And like her parents had this kind of weird kind of couple. Like her dad was involved in like insects and stuff. So like during the summertime, they would like head off into like the forest and like do like insect stuff with her, you know, with like her dad and stuff. Anyway, her mom was a slightly unconventional type of mom. I mean, she, you know, did mom stuff, but she was also a little different too. Not, you know, not the sort of stereotypical mom. And she has an older brother too, who was very eccentric also, and I kind of loved him. And anyway, so but what we see is particularly in her sort of youth, kind of that middle school age, maybe a bit early elementary school age, what it really talks about a lot are those girlhood friendships, how they can be really wonderful and also really awful at the same time. I think especially that 11, 12, 13-year-old age group, right? So she has this kind of group of gal friends, and she gets kind of tormented like horrendously, but she just kind of puts up with it because that's what you do when you're a young teenage girl, because you know it's not like she has a lot of friends, right? Anyway, so there talks about this weird dichotomy of friendship between women, girls and women, because one of the girls she reconnects with as like an older teenager, high school age, and things are different for, you know, at that time for them. I'm rambling, I know, I'm sorry, I did not have my life together for this book to talk about it properly, but anyway, this up and down with female friendships, I think, is where I'm going with this. And how that really affected actually her artwork as well. Things that happened, you know, kind of happened with her in her childhood. There's like love in here too. Like she gets married, has a kid, and they get divorced, and she's like remarried. So there's like, you know, it's really kind of just a story of this woman's life, and it's at times very just relatable. And for me, I think I just read this at the most perfect time of life, because I'm also like a middle-aged woman, and as Elaine is, and like I said, this more kind of modern timeline, and so much of this just resonated with me, I think, just at the time of life that I'm in. And I thought it was perfection, and I loved it so much. I love this book, oh my god. So it's, I don't know what to say. I just feel like, I don't know, if it sounds interesting to you, read it. Elaine's a super interesting character, and I really loved her a lot. And yeah, I love this book. I don't know what else to say. Again, I don't think I have my kind of full thoughts really thought out about it, but it's just fantastic. And I just loved it. Again, just, a woman's life, how wonderful it could be, how mundane it could be, how stressful it can be, how lovely it can be, all the things. And I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Okay. Then I dug into, of course, Week of Weird happened in March. Thanks everyone for joining us for round 3 of Week of Weird. We had a great time. So I did do a vlog for Week of Weird, so I won't talk too much about these books, but just in case you didn't want to sit through that whole vlog, I'll talk about real quickly. I read Elogona by Samantha Kolesnik. Really enjoyed this as well. This is another actually sort of post-apocalyptic type story. Some kind of climate disaster has happened, and a lot of humanity has escaped this little island here. And also a sort of force has awoken from the depths of the sea, and they call it Elogona. It's this like sea serpenty creature. There's a queer romance in here of people just trying to survive on this island, which of course a man has turned into a total patriarchal, stupid place. And when you're a queer women, it's hard to survive there. But I really enjoyed this. I love Samantha Kolesnik. I'm glad she's back writing, and I had a great time with this. Super short novella, was really great. I marked a couple things in here. Let me see. I don't think I actually talked about these in my vlog, so let's see. Ooh, male gaze had always felt like a residue she didn't deserve and couldn't wash off. Love that. What was this? They were building a new world, and it was too much like the old, too restrictive and hateful, full of scorn and judgment, fire and brimstone. Even as they were surrounded by fire and brimstone, it was still somehow held above their heads as a threat of what was to come. How could it be a threat if it was already here? Verna wondered. So Verna was our main character. She was a really great character. But if good people didn't rid the world of bad men, who would? Most people stepped aside and let the loudest voices rule, so long as those loud voices persecuted someone else. For most, it was easy to sit back and let other people suffer. Verna could never be like that. She knew what it was like to be othered, and when she saw something was wrong in the world, she wanted to make it right. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was great. Fantastic. Loved it. Okay. Shark Heart. Yeah, that was so much. This was lovely. Shark Heart, a love story by Emily Habeck. Like I said, absolutely lovely story. We're following this couple who's gotten married after, some years of courtship and all that good stuff. They're really in love, and their love is very established here. So we know their connection. We know they're deeply connected. So they've gotten married. Not even, I think, a year has gone by. And the dude, oh my god, I forget character's name so bad, Lewis, has been diagnosed with a genetic mutation. So in this world, people sometimes get these genetic mutations in which they will turn into animals, like literal animals. And so he has this mutation in which he will turn into a great white shark. And so we watch this process as he is turning into a great white shark. And what that means, of course, for this relationship. And it's sad, it's bittersweet, because they do love each other, but they can't live together. You can't be married to a shark. So it's, like I said, very bittersweet and sad at points, but also just kind of touching, and really it is a love story. And I thought it was really wonderful. Really enjoyed the writing here. We'll keep an eye out on this author. I think see what she comes up with next. This was a debut novel. I thought it was a really fantastic debut, and I highly recommend it. It is not dark or anything like that. It's just kind of the story of this couple, and I can picture this sort of transformation of this guy turning into a shark, right? It's wild, right? Like there's a character in here who's a woman, and she's pregnant with like birds. Like they're already turned into animals. They're already birds in her belly. What? It's crazy. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I ended let's talk about my short story. That I did read a short story out of my big The Weird anthology. I'll finish this some year. But I read Shredni Vashar by Saki. This is a story from 1920, and it was pretty great. This kid has a ferret out in a shed in his backyard, and starts worshiping it like a god. Story goes from there. It was pretty great, actually. Really enjoyed the ending of that one. Watching a goose out there on at our retaining pond. I wonder if they're nesting. Anyway, ended it with They Were Here Before Us by Eric LaRocca. Basically a collection of short stories. I love this cover. Collection of short stories. Really good. I guess ultimately they dealt with kind of relationships and love in some kind of way. The first few handfuls of stories were from the perspective of animals or like insects, which was super interesting. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, really enjoyed this. Super short, typical kind of really beautiful LaRocca writing, and deep, kind of some dark, gruesome stuff thrown in there for a good time. And overall, I really enjoyed this. We're glad to finally read it off my shelf. Doing really good with the Read What You Own challenge. I finally crossed over like the quarter way. I hit 25 books read, so I'm feeling really good. I'm just kind of slowly making my way through the challenge. I'm really not stressing. I've not really felt pressed to buy any books or anything. So I don't know. I'm just living my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a good time. What did I watch? I did watch a few things. If you're not interested in what I've been watching, you can go ahead and tune out now. That's totally fine. I finished up the show called The Sign. This is a Thai BL show, and it was really good. The ending felt rushed. And I was kind of bummed about that, but whatever. This is a type of story that was just kind of like fated lovers that span like reincarnation, like span time, that kind of story. So if you're interested in that kind of story, you probably like The Sign. But our main characters are like detectives, so there's a lot of like action scenes and stuff too, which was really great. I thought it was really really cool. So there's this storyline of there's this kind of a kingpin kind of ball, like mafia kind of guy, and they're trying to track him down. Then also there's this connection between these two guys that and what does that mean, and trying to figure all that out. So yeah, I really I was glad to watch it. Finally finished that series. Yeah, it was good. I really love the characters. It was good. I did a couple of watch parties with Andrew over at Came From The Page. He does some watch parties for his Patreons. Highly recommend. We have such a good time. We did Frankenstein Conquers the World. Amazing. Frankenstein, his heart has survived, and I don't know, It Grows a Big Frankenstein. I don't know, it was a lot of fun. Followed that with the War of the Gargantua, where we have the green Frankenstein and a brown one. And yeah, it was a fun one too. Yeah. I watched Perfect Propose. This is a Japanese show. I loved it. It is so good. We've got these two guys again who they knew each other as kids, right? And the one kid was like, and when we're old, when we're adults and stuff, yeah, I'm gonna marry you because yeah. And so he finds Megan as an adult, and the one guy is just really like, he's really just going through the motions of life. Like, he's not a good place. Like, he hates his job. His job is really like wearing on him. It's like all these long hours and stuff. And he's just like, like I said, just going through the motions of life. And so the other guy comes in and he needs a place to crash. And so they yeah, I don't know. I came in. It's just so sweet. It was so good. It was so sweet and good. I loved it so much. I loved it so much. We finally finished DFF. Okay, this was the Thai show that I have been watching. Holy moly, I loved this show. Okay, I loved this show. It is a sort of horror, thrillery, twisty-turny show that the writers did just a fantastic job with. By the time everything ended, I just was, I loved it so much. There's a group of it starts out, there's a group of high schoolers, and they go to this house kind of out in the woods to make a movie. They were won this competition to make a movie from their school and stuff. Okay, cool. But the one kid there who gets bullied horrendously, but it's his script, so they're using him for the script. Blah, blah. And things happen, and this kid goes missing. Okay, so as we're in our present storyline, they've come back to the house for a last hurrah because one of the guys is going to go away to America. Okay, stuff occurreth, secrets arise, and we're still trying to figure out where this missing guy has gone. And it kind of flashes backwards in time a little bit, moves forward. I'm telling you, it was so good. The acting was great. A lot of these are kind of newer actors. I guess because they're younger, they're playing young characters. I was blown away by this series. If you like a good series with some, I mean some really good twists and turns, like you just are forever trying to think about what's going to happen in the next episode, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. It's so good. Oh my God. DFF. A fave of the year. Gonna be for sure. I loved it. I rewatched Raising Arizona. I put it on here because I hadn't seen it in a million years. Lord, why is it funny every time? Why is it such a hilarious movie? I don't know. It just is so funny. It's a very quotable movie. I feel like it's one my husband and I quote a lot. Though again, I haven't seen it in a long time. Who wears the pants around here, H.I.? You know, turn to the right. Anyway, it's so good. Perfect for old school April. If you need an old school Coen Brothers movie to watch for April, you got it. If you've not seen Raising Arizona, prepare to laugh. It's so funny. And then lastly, I watched the movie Manswa. I don't know how to pronounce it necessarily, but this is a Thai movie. And it was pretty good. It stars a lot of the actors from the Beyond Cloud team. Anyway, it's a historical piece. So if you like that kind of thing, if you're interested in that kind of seeing the costumes and the sets were just fantastic. They did a really great job with that. A lot of sort of political intrigue with like rulers getting murdered and like, you know, other factions moving in, trying to take control of this little town, you know, and then, you know, so our main character is kind of pulled in as a kind of like not really a spy, but he's like looking for something, and to try, because he's just in a situation. He's in like a rock and a hard place situation. Anyway, so I'm not explaining it very well, but yeah, a lot of, like I said, political kind of intrigue with that kind of thing, and then some beautiful like set pieces with traditional like dance and music, which was really lovely. Overall, I had a really good time with it. The story got a little convoluted maybe, but I thought the acting was really well, particularly my man Tong. I loved him in Ken Portia because he was hilarious. I loved seeing him in a more serious role in here, and I think he was a standout for me. I thought he was fantastic, and I'm really excited. I hope he gets some more kind of serious roles too, because I think he's a really great actor. So, yay, I'm excited. I haven't watched it yet. It was good. So, blah, 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 blah. What else happened in March? I went to my first concert of the year. Yay! I went to go see the K-pop group IVE. They are 6-piece ladies, and I had such a good time. I put my big girl panties on and drove all the way down to Atlanta by myself, and I was nervous because I had never ever in my life been to the big city of Atlanta, much less driven there around town. Oh my God, I was nervous, but I made it there fine. Got my little hotel, stayed my little overnight, did my little concert. It was so good. I'll leave some clips at the end if I think about it, but I had a great time. It was so good. My first concert of the year. Ooh, and it was fantastic. They were amazing. They sounded so good. It was so good. Anyway, I think that's about it. Kind of the highlights of the month. It was a good month. It's springing around here in North Carolina, so, you know, we're getting buds on the trees and flowers are blooming. Yeah, so that's it. This is a really long video, so I'm going to leave it here. Thanks for watching. I hope that you had a great March. Let me know what you read, what you got into, and all that kind of good stuff, because I want to know. I'm always want to know what you're up to. And I'll catch you next one. Okay, bye. Bye.